making it easier for the Veterans Administration to go ahead and fire executives who are not doing a good job. House lawmakers voting overwhelmingly in favor of that measure. But the bill is getting blocked in the Senate. Ironically, this Memorial Day weekend, we pay tribute to our bravest. My next guest wants to be a senator, and he's fresh off a Republican primary victory in Nebraska. Ben Sasse on the phone now with what he makes of it. By the way, we did call Mr. Sasse's opponent, Dave Domina. We're waiting to hear back. So what do you make of this measure just sort of held up in the Senate?
You know, Harry Reid needs to stop stonewalling, and then we need to approve in the Senate what the House has just done, which is to give more authority to top leadership to get bureaucracy out of the way and actually serve the men and women who've served us more effectively.
What do you make of the Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders' view? We need more time to look at this. From last time I checked, it's all of 3 pages. It spells out exactly what I just spelled out, that if you've got an incompetent in there or they're not getting something done, you can can them. So it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah, I think that part's straightforward as well. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more we need to look at about how these fake waiting lists have been created in other cities. In Phoenix, allegedly, as many as 1,600 vets have been impacted and maybe 40 have died while waiting. They need to get to the bottom of what's happened in these other cities, but you don't need to wait to start holding people accountable for those who've not provided the service they need. But more fundamentally, we need to figure out how to reform the VA to provide some actual competition so vets are getting the kind of care they need.
Do you think that the president should have fired Sasse, got ahead and got rid of him? Because we do know that these problems have been ongoing. So maybe just to prove the point, get rid of him.
Well, I think there are definitely people who need to be fired in this. I don't know that I know enough to know exactly where all that accountability lies, but what the president does is every time there's one of these scandals, he tries to find some reason to obfuscate and delay and change the subject, and then they fire some low-level person, and they claim that outside folks have validated what they've done. I think the administration in the last 3 days has 9 times said that the American Legion is on board with the reform plans that the White House has outlined, and I don't think anybody from the American Legion has said any of that. So I think some of the firings end up being a sideshow. There's a systemic failure here. When you try to allocate resources by political force instead of actual patient and consumer choices, this is the kind of rationing of care you end up with.
You know, you're one of, also known yourself as, if you don't mind me switching gears a little bit, as one of the Tea Party survivors. I mean, in what has not been a good run for Tea Party challengers to mainstream Republican candidates, lo and behold, they point to you. How do you identify yourself as a Tea Party, as a traditional Republican, as a conservative? What?
You know, what we did in our race is we said we wanted more of everything. We want to grow the conservative movement. I want more pro-lifers and more Second Amendment advocates and more folks who want smaller regulation and less federal intrusion into the place where entrepreneurs are creating jobs. And definitely I want more constitutional conservatism, which is what most Nebraskans mean when they say the term Tea Partier. So in our race, we were trying to court everybody because I think conservative ideas are the best ideas for America, and we have to go out and make that case. And so we want more of all of the above. And I think, you know, the liberal media loves to obsess over Republicans fighting Republicans. In our race, we said let's grow the conservative movement by having better ideas and more persuasion, and let's get to a majority in the Senate. I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
So when I have talked to some Tea Parties, not all, to your point, who are bitter and don't like the way they've either been treated by, John Boehner in the House, who they say we made Speaker, you say what?
You know, I think that one of the good things that's happening with this, with some of these primary battles in the conservative movement is that the conversation is returning to the Constitution. The federal government can't centrally plan life. The VA can't centrally deliver care in a monopolistic way to start where you started. We need a world that affirms the private sector, and that you did build that worldview because it's what America is about. America is about the diversity of our communities and our entrepreneurs and people who create value in the private sector, not monopolistic government. And that's what the Constitution is about. We need to celebrate that. And I think there are some good signs in the Republican Party right now in that message is becoming more of a staple for a lot of the movement. And I think a lot of Tea Party ideals are getting out there and being adopted by more of the Republican Party. So I think that's a victory.
Ben Sasse, thank you very much.
Good to be with you, Neil.
Same here.